Welcome to Staying Sweet, the podcast. Tune into my weekly podcast to hear me, Alice Bradley, delve deeper into building your personal brand, up-level your mindset and tap into your highest potential using what makes you, you, all while staying sweet, of course. Whether you're looking to level up within an existing business, start something of your own, or create a fulfilling, balanced and healthier lifestyle, each episode will be curated especially to inspire and encourage your own success. Plus, don't miss out on the Staying Sweet specials, a series of exclusive interviews and conversations with Alice's network of entrepreneurs and brand owners. Don't forget there are new episodes every Monday. If you enjoyed the podcast, please do leave a rate and review. For more daily content, check out @StayingSweetPodcast over on Instagram. Stay sweet. Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of Staying Sweet, the podcast. I'm diving straight in today with the topic of lucky girl syndrome and this idea that everything always works out for me, and particularly in business. I feel like there's so much to be said for this attitude of everything working out and believing in yourself and believing that you have the possibility to match your desires. And in doing so, I really think developing your identity, evolving your identity is part and parcel of that. And in order to get yourself together with this lucky girl syndrome mindset, I think you do need to look at your identity, how you position yourself, your future self and your future self in business. Like, what do they look like? So today's episode, we're going to be talking about linking it to business and, of course, focusing on desiring that future self and embodying that future self now. I've done a few episodes on previous podcasts, which I will of course link in the show notes, which touch on similar lines of this lucky girl energy and this constant belief that everything always works out in the best possible way. But I feel like I needed to do a solo episode on lucky girl syndrome and what it kind of means to me, how it can really impact you, and how this almost delusional energy, which I know, guys, not everybody agrees with, I do think there is a fun way to play around with this form of self-branding. And, you know, despite it being a well-debated topic, I think there's a method to the madness, and I do think it is working out for a lot of people, and in particular me. Recent things, projects, job opportunities coming up and coming through, things have just been in this beautiful state of flow. So I really want to invite you to flow yourself and just get things going, get the ball moving, get closer to your desires, streamline your identity and your vision for yourself. So simply put, I think it does work, and I've used it to attract, my dream clients, my opportunities, recent interviews, which I'll touch on in a second. But when you stop playing small, you do attract things more in line with your dreams. And I've definitely had this recently with, flying private, recently with FlexJet. That was certainly something that a higher version of myself believed was worthy and believed could happen for myself. And I think if I'd played small and played in that mindset of, wow, that's something that I may never be able to afford, then I might not have attracted the opportunity in. So we're going to be talking and focusing on matching your desires and how you can do that, because I think sometimes that feeling of being delusional or saying your affirmations, sometimes when we're saying stuff, we don't truly believe in ourselves. We're just saying it because everyone else is saying everything works out for me, and everyone else is saying I've got lucky girl syndrome. But what I want you to do is focus on the inner work of finding your belief, finding that inner self that truly believes that you are able to bridge the gap between your desires and your dreams and your hopes with your current self. And in a parallel space, there's always the possibility of that success in everything that you do, no matter where you are at the beginning of your journey, in the middle of your journey, hitting a rough patch on your journey. You have the power to completely shift your belief system. And it does start small, and I would say it starts with small ingrained thinking and just rewiring that subconscious mindset. So for me, flying private was just like, what a kickstart to the year, what an affirmation in itself. I am worthy of being here, of being in this elite high value setting, which I know it's a very materialistic example, but I feel like it sets a precedent in itself and explains that, okay, if that can happen, if I can be in that space or show up in that area, where else can I do this in my life? What else can I attract and draw to me? So we're going to be touching on that. But first, of course, updates on this past week, what's been going on. It's been a very busy week this week for me. I've had my first cover shoot for the new magazine that I'm writing. Well, not writing for, actually. I probably will at some point, but actually I'm doing the social media management for them. And that is London Fabric Magazine, which is a London-based publication. It's all focused on luxury property, which is utterly incredible, and living a luxury lifestyle. So that's, culture things and the arts, it's interior design, it's luxury travel, which again, you guys know I do a lot of in my line of work, but I absolutely love this particular area. And I'll be honest, guys, I am in the deep end with property and understanding what is, going on with that area, the ins and outs of the property market. For lack of a better kind of explanation, I think I've just been in resistance mode with just understanding property, because in my mind, I'm maybe a couple of years out from, having my own place and actually being able to buy on my own. But I think in just being in this particular market and just seeing how luxury properties are sold, luxury properties are marketed, again, it's that self-belief, it's connecting and bridging the gap between my wants and desires and the realities of the situation. Knowledge is power ultimately. So if I was to kind of use that as an example, I need to identify with the person that would own that property. And I feel very privileged because I'm going to be, networking with people that live in these properties or are selling these properties. So I'm connecting with people that own and are, distributors of this type of wealth. And it's very, very interesting to see how that's going to evolve over the next few years. I feel like it's a very exciting time, and I absolutely love the magazine and what it stands for. So I'd love for you guys to check out the magazine itself. I will link its Instagram in the show notes. Please do drop a follow. I would absolutely love that so much. I also had a very, very, very major interview on Tuesday, which I was supposed to do on the Monday, but this particular person had a couple of things come up, so we couldn't do the interview on Monday. Ended up doing it on Tuesday morning. Monday, I was ready to go, literally on the Zoom call with his PR and PA, and I was so nervous. Like, I was having the most anxiety I've ever had in like a long time, and it was so weird because I was thinking, why am I getting so worked up on this? I do this all the time. I interview lots of people, and I think it really truly came down to the fact that this was a major person in my space and my industry. And I don't want to give too much away because obviously that's not my thing to reveal. It's part of Arcadia magazine, and that magazine will be going out in a couple of weeks' time. So again, not to plug it, but to plug it, I will pop in the show notes a link for you guys to buy the next issue of Arcadia. You guys are not going to want to miss out. If you're listening to this podcast, you're going to want to buy that next issue because it is going to be incredible. I've got lots of features coming out in the magazine for this issue coming up, and it's just mega. It's print as well, so you're getting that high value luxury content basically. But I did this interview and yeah, I was ready and gearing up to do it on the Monday. Like, I was there with my questions. I felt like I was just super overwhelmed and excited, I think was the real sort of feeling that I was experiencing. And half an hour before I was supposed to go down, or about an hour actually before I was supposed to do my interview, I went downstairs, my parents were home, and I just burst into tears. And like, I never do that, and I just fully was crying, and I was like, this feels like a life-changing moment. Like, for some reason it felt really life-changing. And the interview ended up not happening that day, and I kind of feel like it was a blessing in disguise because it was almost humbling in that I don't need to get that worked up about someone. I'm as worthy to interview that person as they are to do their job. And connecting those dots, I feel like you might be able to kind of slowly piece together who this might be. But in essence, I think you're going to absolutely love the feature, because it was a pleasure to talk to this person. This person is so valued and respected entrepreneurially in this industry. Hint, hint. I'm not going to say much more than that, but this person is honestly next level. And just being able to interview them and have all my ducks in a row, like all my questions came out right. I sounded so confident, and that second day and just coming back and revisiting it, and actually the interview happened at 8:30 in the morning. I think actually maybe even earlier, about 8 a.m. And because it was so early, I had no time to stress. I had no time to have anxiety. I had to sleep the night before, so I went to bed, and I was just ready to go. And I smashed the interview, and I'm honestly so proud of myself, because I was so nervous that day before. It could have gone completely wrong. I could have just been totally overwhelmed with my emotions and anxieties. So yeah, I think in just taking a step back for a minute, believing in myself, like identifying with the person that I want to be, and also this person that I'm interviewing, on their level, what are they showing up as? They're very relaxed. They're not somebody who is necessarily intentionally intimidating. They're not at all, but they hold a power. And I think you have to understand, okay, what would you define as their power, and then incorporate that into your identity, and work out how you can do that. And I think just in having that extra time just to realize, do you know what, I'm so worthy of firstly interviewing this person, secondly, I'm in this industry, I have all the questions like ready to go. I've probably wanted to speak to this person for the longest time, so I'm so in alignment. And I think the opportunity presented itself, and my editor Manisha gave me the interview because I was ready to deliver it and ready to do it. And I truly believe that everything happens for a reason, and you connect with your desires when you believe that you're worthy of showing up. And I know that Manisha is fantastic, and I know that she saw that maybe like glimmer in me, and she thought, okay, it's your time to do this interview. And it went super well. I can't actually wait for the interview to come out. But that really is my update for the week. Bit of a long one, but I feel like it does incorporate itself into this identity and this lucky girl syndrome or lucky guy syndrome, whatever angle you want to bring to it. So let's start quickly with an affirmation before we dive into the episode. My affirmation of the week is, I am open to my unlimited potential. And now emphasis on open, because when you're open, when you're receptive, when you're relaxed in the belief that something can happen for you and come into your life, you're more likely to spot the opportunities. And actually, I was offered the interview with this particular person when I was on the private jet flying to St. Moritz with FlexJet. So what does that tell you? It tells me, and I want to relay it to you guys, that in dressing well, in showing up as the person that I believe my brand identity encompasses, sitting on a jet with my editor and having lovely conversation, lovely drinks with other journalists and PR, and that connection and that engagement opened that opportunity up for me. And I'm truly, truly thankful that my inner self was feeling like, do you know what? You deserve to be here. And you know what as well? There's been a lot of experiences I've had in the past, particularly last year, where I would be in certain situations and I would feel guilty because I'd have these encounters with, not everyone, but a couple of people, odd few people that I'd see, and they would say, oh, you're always off on a jolly, you're always on a holiday, when will you actually work, blah, 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 not realising what I'm doing, despite it being an incredible opportunity to travel. I'm still working, I'm still representing the magazine that I'm writing for, I'm still deciding to create content for the PR and the brand and the hotel, whatever, the tourist board. And I'm also in the midst of all that, possibly shooting brand collabs, which I've managed to organise for myself, which that is all work. And when I was listening to those almost subconscious belittling comments, it niggled at me and it gave me this feeling of imposter syndrome. And I had it a couple of times, not a lot of times, guys, I'll be honest, but maybe once or twice from older journalists who didn't really get why I was doing social media as well, didn't really understand what I was doing. And those little things have the power to chip away at your self-belief and, can potentially, if you're not strong in the belief of yourself, can actually make you play small. So this affirmation, really, I am open to my unlimited potential. I want you to feel the feeling of being unlimited, that the world is your oyster. I know it's something that I need to embody in my new job, particularly when I'm going to be working in luxury property, because if I go in and go, oh my gosh, this property is huge, how can anyone afford this? I'm operating out of lack. If I take the opportunity to look at the fixtures and fittings, I look at the way that the property is laid out, I act as if, and I show up intentionally, I am more likely to attract in that energy of this is possible for me. And I think true entrepreneurs have this spirit in mind. They are somewhat protected, energetically when they show up in that vibration, because it's like no matter what energy comes my way, I know who I am at my core. And I think that's really what the lucky girl syndrome is. And I think that's why people that have spoken about it have had a lot of backlash, or not a lot of backlash, but like occasional negative comments, or the comments about it being a privileged thing. And I understand that there is a privilege to an extent, not everybody has that baseline of life being lucky. But if you believe that you have the power to change your life, you will change your life. And that's where the lucky aspect comes in. And that's where that kind of mentality of, I'm so trusting that it's going to work out for me, that it does. So let's touch on how I've evolved my identity recently. I feel like I've done such a pivot since my last birthday in July. July was like a really, really tough time for me. And I think at some point, maybe in the next season, I will do a podcast episode on my 24th year in comparison to my 25th year, because the difference is unparalleled. Like, it's actually insane how different those 2 years were for me. And I think the start of my healing and the start of my identity evolution was on my 25th birthday. I remember picking up Becoming the One by Shailina Ayana and reading that book and just thinking, I need to become the one for myself. I need to show up effortlessly in order to attract that unlimited abundance, that incredible relationship, those incredible colleagues, those people that are just so aligned with me. And I think, had I not done that work, I probably wouldn't have had the self-belief to apply for the job or take the jobs on or, travel to these certain places. I truly believe that evolving my identity in that moment was the start of this new phase of me and understanding my passions and what I'm good at. So I think another important thing to note actually is that you can rebrand yourself at any time and time again. It's okay to naturally evolve. It's okay to say goodbye to certain things and step into this new version of yourself. You don't have to wait until your next birthday or the new year. You just need to decide how you're going to take action. And I think some people can, play a part in that resistance. They know the old version of you, or you might feel sad to let go of certain things. But I feel like in my evolution over the last particularly few months, I've noticed that in order to evolve in the best possible way, it needs to be purposeful. And that's where your true identity is. It needs to have purpose. There's no point changing something or believing in something if it's, just following a trend or it's something that you think is popular right now. Your identity really is a superpower, and you can use that to attract your dream clients, your dream customers, your whole dream existence. And that energy, the energetics of where you position yourself is going to carry your entire career. It's going to carry you through, promotions and changes up in in things. You might decide you want to go down a completely different path. You might decide you want to go back into education. Just knowing that it's possible and that you can make that change and it be purposeful is really where that evolution starts, you know. And I think a good example of this really was last year for me. I had a major identity crisis with all my personal brands, not just my personal Instagram, which was very sort of fashion focused initially, and then I tried to kind of develop more into travel, and then we had the pandemic, and then coming back to travel slowly, and I was still kind of sharing fashion, and I do show up and share my fashion, but I share it in more of a lifestyle context. And I'll be honest, I absolutely hate shooting content that is really like super niched fashion focused stuff, only because it doesn't interest me. It's not something that lights me up. Like, I've decided to let go of those things, you know, for a while. And I believe I've used this as an example before, but I tried really hard to grow my YouTube channel. And I remember I had a video editor very briefly, and he was like, well, you need to do 5 to 6 hauls a week. You need to buy clothes. You need to spend about £300 to £400. You need to put these hauls up, get them up, do all the big brands, H&M, Zara, you know, Boohoo, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, try on the clothes, put your size on there, show how you're wearing the clothes, and you will get subscribers. And I was thinking, I really don't want to do this. I remember telling him as well, I was like, I really want to talk about manifestation, and I want to talk about what lights me up and self-help books. And I remember him saying, it's not going to grow your channel. He was like, grow on a fashion side first and then try and ease that content in. But it never felt right to me. And you can go back and actually see some of the videos. I'm deliberating at the moment whether to remove them from my podcast channel, but I decided towards the end of last year that my YouTube channel was going to become my podcast channel, and I was going to rebrand it. And I truly believe, I have obviously less views at the moment, but I truly believe that is more to me and more to my core than anything else, because the fashion side of things, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I've done years of fashion weeks. I've done, you know, countless events, and I love fashion, but I don't love it in a sense to be necessarily someone groundbreaking in fashion. I just enjoy consuming, and I enjoy other people's content. But then even saying that, I don't ever watch fashion hauls. I don't tune in, and I don't really care. I prefer to watch lifestyle content and business focused content. So do you see what I mean there? I should have really listened to my intuition and been guided by my true identity, because I think maybe had I given it my all straight away, it might have been slightly different. But I feel like my content before my podcast, I would do manifesting content, and I would do stuff about books that I've read that have changed my life, and career goals, how to take action. And I was doing those in lockdown, and I think they were the precursor to my podcast. They were developing my confidence and making me realize, you know, this is possible. So yeah, I feel like over the last few years, things have been changing quite drastically, but in a good way. And I also noticed this massively with my photography business. You know, I predominantly shot fashion content and creator content, which I still do love doing. I really do. But I found I was trying to do and be too many things. When someone would send me a DM and say, hey, we've got an event coming up, like big major brands guys would say, we've got an event, would you shoot it? Would you create content for us? I felt guilty for not feeling the pull to do it. I felt like potentially I wasn't good enough to do it, and I felt like it wasn't my thing. I just kind of had this knowing that it wasn't my thing. And it took starting to work in a studio that I realised how much I love being in a studio, and how much that is where I thrive, and I can give my all, my 100% energy to an individual or a brand, is when I'm creating high quality studio content for them. So I work in many rooms, which if anyone is listening to this podcast and wants to shoot with me or wants to shoot in the studio, many rooms, I will pop a link to the studio in the show notes, of course, because it's an incredible space. It's on Latimer Road in sort of the Hammersmith area. So it's very accessible for Londoners, and it's just this great creative space for me. It's a blank canvas, and the wonderful owner of Many Rooms, Dorothy, she has just completely taken me under her wing and just allowed me to use a space and be creative and create these dream, brand concepts and influencer campaigns. And I'm still working in fashion, but I've just realized, like, for me, it's the personal branding stuff. It's elevating a brand's visible worth, their identity, and showing up there. So I think unknowingly, again, going down that route, finding a studio, finding someone who would believe in you for a start, it all weirdly links to Staying Sweet. It really does. And I think at the moment, the core of my brand is this podcast, and I absolutely love it. And I really love helping other women and other people in business, not just women, but other people in business, believe that they are worthy of, an incredible headshot, power move, content that is just going to grip their audience. That is what we're here to do, and that's what I absolutely love to create. So yeah, I'm certainly now a brand that wants to help people get, more creative, get better headshots, better quality images and social media content. And that's what I feel pulled to do. And I feel like in finding my niche, I've become my niche. And that's so important, yet again, to, once you know what lights you up, become it. And allow your own personal flair and your personal, life path and direction dictate that niche, because you will become something entirely new and fresh out of that. So when you're working out what your identity is, you really do first need to look at your goals. You need to look at your big time goals, your needle moving, holy shit, this is going to change my life goals, because they will show you the type of person that you need to become. And then what you need to do is bridge the gap between the two and show up as that end goal person as soon as you can. Like, what can you do? How can you embody them? Allow yourself to become this higher version. I think also being open to being presented with new opportunities. So I've mentioned this before, but you might meet the person who leads you to your career path, or changes the trajectory of your career, or shifts something, or you might lose your job and you think, gosh, that was my entire identity. But actually it's allowed you that opportunity to evolve yourself and become a new person or a redefined person. You might also meet the person that accidentally guides you to something that you never thought was possible. I currently haven't got the means to have my own studio space, but how incredible that I'm able to shoot, in Dorothy's space, create magic for clients, and have that space as a almost like a mini baby. Like it's something that you're nurturing. And had I not met Dorothy, I wouldn't have been in that position. And I think, how incredible is that? People are always going to be coming in to your story and connecting you to where you need to be and this end goal person. I think as well, for people who maybe put things like be the first millionaire in my family, or have £1 million, or that's a very obvious stereotypical kind of example, but I think those people might be sitting on the fact that you're not supposed to just be a millionaire. You're supposed to have the £1 million idea, or the £1 million concept or business. And that's what it is. That's your attraction to abundance. You're thinking, okay, why do I want this so badly? Look at what you're being presented, what ideas come into your head, not note them down. Don't be afraid to be an ideas person and be someone that kind of shows up regularly and notes those down. Have a dedicated little journal that's just all about your ideas. I think as well, you need to trust that you will be presented with these opportunities, in the craziest ways. I've had so many wild experiences before, when you believe that you're that dream business owner, or you act as if, or you have this lucky girl syndrome, everything always works out for me. Well, okay, if that's the case, the universe goes, here we go. Let's throw this into the mix. Let's give you this person. I still think this with FlexJet. You know, what a wild experience. But the universe was like, okay, throw that into the mix, see what she can do with this. Let's see how she feels when she's in this space. Can she hold her own in this space? And actually, I was so empowered. So empowered. So I want to leave you guys with a quick checklist. I feel like towards the end of an episode, a quick checklist is really, really great, because it's just like, right, okay, let's go through the motions, let's get things done, let's give you actionable tips are really going to be, you know, quick fire situations. So firstly, look at your big goals. I want you to revisit your vision board. I want you to take some time to describe your dream self, like get a picture or draw like a little like stick person and then mind map out. It's actually reminded me of something that I did in my journal in like 2018. I did like a gingerbread man style thing, and I had outward traits that I wanted to be and encompass, like physical things. And then in the center, in the middle of this like gingerbread person, was my inner beliefs and my inner thoughts and emotions and, you know, inner, deeper rooted things I would put in the center. I feel like that would be a really good exercise to do. Give yourself some time to describe your dream self. You know, what does this person look like? What does this person do? How does this person show up? Also as well, look at how this person feels. You could do the same sort of gingerbread stick person and, you know, write the feelings that come up for this person. Are they empowered? Are they worthy? Are they confident? I also want you guys to learn how to step into your feminine as well and lead with that energy, because we leave a lot of our feminine energy at the door in business. We operate, and I'm so guilty of this, guys, like I need to be more in my feminine, but forget about the numbers, forget about figures, forget about hustling and burnout and all those masculine energy traits that just are not balanced. We need to balance it out with feminine energy. We need a bit of both to be our best self. So just work on that creative flow, movement, getting your body moving, being creative. Of course, it goes without saying as well to take inspired action. You know, if everything always works out for you, then when it does, how are you going to show up? Because you're going to have to take action when it shows up, and it is going to show up, isn't it? Because you said that everything always works out. So there you go. Also believing that you're worthy. You know, this is so important. This, for me, I think is the first step to evolving your identity. You need to reset your neural pathways. You need to pay attention to what you're subconsciously speaking to yourself when you're daydreaming, when you're working, when you're in that like weird, trippy, dreamlike state. I've noticed it sometimes when I've been sleeping or like half asleep, about to wake up. Maybe like my first alarm's gone off. Guys, I have a few alarms. It's really bad. But my first alarm will go off and I'm like half in and out of sleep. And sometimes I've been kind of mildly conscious of the random things that I'm just saying in my head. And I'm thinking, wow, like my subconscious is telling me this. Why? Like, where's that come from? And it could be the most bizarre negative feedback to myself. So it's about rerouting and rewiring that neural pathway for yourself. I think another thing that you could definitely do is create a daily mindset checklist. So things that are like non-negotiables that are going to be how your higher self would, you know, show up and how that identity would be matched and met. You know, are they going to drink a certain coffee? Are they going to make sure they have a litre of water in the first hour that they wake up? Are they going to spray a certain, you know, business worthy perfume on? Spray the perfume, get the perfume. Put on your favourite pair of shoes. You know, if you see your highest potential entrepreneurial self in a pair of really nice trainers, put a pair of trainers on that make you feel amazing. They don't have to be designer, but they can be about you. And I think finally, see the gratitude in every day, and in particular the everyday routine, because this idea that everything always works out for me and this lucky girl syndrome is it glamorizes and romanticizes what we already have, because gratitude connects us to the next step up and then the next step up. So I'm going to leave you with that. I hope that this episode has been, getting the creative juices flowing. If you feel like you're ready to evolve your identity, or you feel like, okay, I feel quite confident in myself right now, but I did need this little reassurance or kick up the bum, here you go. You got this. And I really hope this episode will connect you guys further to that higher version of yourself, that better version of yourself, that is the badass identity that you want to be. Have an amazing week. Smash it. Go enjoy life. And I will see you next week, guys, for a brand new episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Staying Sweet, the podcast. If you enjoyed listening, please do leave a rate and review, and I will catch you next week for a new episode.